Fenyx, fighting with all her might, had nearly reached Olympus on her quest to defeat Typhon, the dreaded god destroyer. But first, she would have to plunge into the Forge Lands. Once home to Hephaestus, god of fire, hammer, anvil, and forge, these were now godless lands. Scorched, laid to waste. What was not dead was dying. Chaos reigned. For here, monsters roamed free.
Can you not tell this story like I wasn't just there?
Zeus.
I was literally just there 2 weeks ago, and even if I wasn't, though I was, I'd be listening to your story for days.
It's called dramatic effect.
It's called Where's My Skip Button?
Fine. Cue title.
Ubisoft Quebec presents the video game formerly known as Gods and Monsters.
It is actually pronounced Ubisoft.
The French.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the DarkCast. I'm Jonathan Miley. Joining me for this segment is Joel Zerlup.
I am here. I'm not sure why I'm here, because I didn't play the game.
You're here to help me think. So recently, I got to play the game that is formerly known as Gods and Monsters. That there's going to be, or there has been, a second Ubisoft forward. So, in lieu of E3 and our ever-changing, and at least in the United States, ever-worsening situation with the coronavirus, developers, publishers are having to come up with new ways to kind of have events for people to find out new information about video games. So a few months ago, there was a big thing with Watch Dogs Legion and Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and Ubisoft kind of had a mini E3 conference. And now they're doing it again. I don't know what all is going to be shown, but I got the chance to, again, kind of digitally remote into a Ubisoft server and get my hands on a game.
You got, what, 3 hours with this one?
Like
2 hours?
2.5, 3 hours, something like that, yeah. So the game that I got to play, it was revealed last year at E3 2019. It was a game called Gods and Monsters. And from the trailer, if you thought that, hey, this looks like The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Assassin's Creed Odyssey got together and had a baby, well, that is still an entirely valid statement. The game has gone through some metamorphosis. It has a slightly different visual aesthetic. It's still very cartoony and exaggerated, but it's not quite as cel-shaded as I think the original kind of trailer revealed it to be. But now it is not called Gods and Monsters anymore. It is called Immortals Fenyx Rising. And Fenyx is spelled Fenyx. And
That's how I've always spelled Phoenix. Is that wrong?
Right. That's
Phonetically, I'm not even sure that works. So
I think that's like Fenyx or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And Fenyx is traditionally like I know it's part of Greek myth, and so like using the word Phoenix, I'm not against at all. I don't like the look of the word that they chose, like Fenyx. It just, I don't know. It just feels weird. And so they said that they changed the title because it's more evocative of what this game is. And maybe it is, and I don't know. I'm not a huge fan. I like Gods and Monsters. I feel like that is an evocative title. That tells you that you're dealing with like mythology. And Immortals, that's not anti-mythology, but it doesn't quite have the same substance to it.
So this is probably not the place Ubisoft wants me to start, but that title reminds me of something back 10, maybe 20 years ago, where you'd go to Target and there was this bargain bin for like $20 games. It just has a weird ring to it, where Gods and Monsters has this like, oh, this is like going to be a huge franchise.
Right.
I don't know why. I feel like it's a weird sidestep. Like Gods and Monsters has like this, like we're going for it. This is a big title.
I totally understand if you wanted to add a subtitle to Gods
Oh,
and Monsters,
100%.
especially if you're going like because it's like inherently mythological, but it's not inherently Greek. So going with something, so the game takes place on I don't know if it's supposed to be a kind of mythological representation of Greece or what, but it's just called the Golden Isles. I feel like you could call this game Gods and Monsters, the Golden Isles, or something like that. Like, that could be pretty easy. There are a lot of different ways that you could go with this, and they don't go those ways. But, so I guess that's the title kind of set me off on maybe the wrong foot in going into this game, because immediately I was like, I don't know if I like these changes.
Paint us a quick picture. Did you start with any story at all?
Not really. So
Okay, that's not a good start.
So I know that your character is called Fenyx, and the character is completely customizable. It can be male or female, and you can change the look of it. The trailer that we saw and all of the gameplay that you'll see from this game is of a kind of red-haired woman, and I actually really liked that, because a lot of the times that you have a customizable character, the developer / publisher always pushes the like white dude version of the character. That's the one that's on the box art, that's the one that's in the trailers and everything, and this was not that. So I do know that Typhon has like escaped from the underworld, and he is wanting to wreak havoc on the world and the gods of Mount Olympus. And for the most part, that's really the only sense of story that I got. I played through one story mission, which was not all that interesting, partially because it really lacked context. But basically, there's this big forge, and you need to light 4 furnaces to kind of like restart the forge, and then there's a boss battle with this like giant animatronic soldier guy, and then it's over. And then I kind of just went around the open part of the map that I had, which was just one of many different sections. So the map looks like it's pretty large. It's not like Assassin's Creed level or anything like that, I don't think. You can do some like tests of might where you fight some bad guys. There was a test of I guess like accuracy or something, and that was probably one of my favorite things, just because it was very evocative of Odysseus. You have these axes that are in the ground that their handles have a circle kind of on the end, and so you're shooting your arrow, you're guiding it through these kind of open circles in the axes in this pretty large kind of, I don't know, circuit that you have to meander your way through with the arrow, and that was kind of neat. And then you got some coins called coins of Charon, who's the guy that ferries people to the underworld. I know that you get upgrades with those, but I wasn't actually able to upgrade anything in my demo, so I'm not sure how exactly those upgrades work.
Oh, okay, so did they just block that part off? Or did you just not gain experience?
I did not gain any experience, no. It seemed like it might be a little more Zelda in the way that you upgrade stuff. So, like, there are some areas called, like Vaults of Tartarus, where you're doing more kind of platformy stuff, and at the end you get one of Zeus's thunderbolts, and that just went into a bank of thunderbolts that I had, that I think that's what you use to upgrade like your stamina and other abilities and stuff like that. So it seemed like there were a number of different currencies that you will be gaining to upgrade different things. There is loot in the game. You do have various swords and armors and things like that. But yeah, you have a number of abilities in the game. You've got your sword, which is your main attack that you do with the... so the default controls use the trigger and the bumper to attack, which I cannot stand. I'm an X and Y or a square and triangle guy. So this is being made by Ubisoft Quebec, which I know they've had their hands in a lot of other Ubisoft games. I think they may have actually been the developer that made Odyssey.
At least that's what they say in the advertisements for this game. Is that it's from the makers of Odyssey? But I didn't. But if you had said Ubisoft Quebec, I have no idea which. I mean, they all make everything.
Right, they all make everything, and Ubisoft has been really good with, I would say, the last couple of years of their games of having a lot of different accessibility options and a lot of options in terms of like customizing your controls.
Yeah, that's true.
I know that at least with Odyssey, you can completely remap the controller. So hopefully that is the case here, and that's really just for my personal comfort. So your main attack is the Sword of Achilles, and then you also have your heavy attack is the Axe of Atalanta. You have the Bow of Odysseus. You have a kind of dash that you can do. It's for some reason it's the dash of Athena instead of like the dash of Hermes or something. I'm not real sure about that one. And then you have the Hammer of Hephaestus, which is this really big like area of effect attack that is pretty cool. And pretty much all of those things utilize your stamina bar. And so very Breath of the Wildy. Right. You have a little meter next to basically your reticle in the middle of the screen that shows you your stamina, and so all of your magic and all of your kind of different abilities kind of drain that. And it also, when you're climbing the sides of rocks, that stamina meter is draining, just like Breath of the Wild. You have a kind of binocular zoom vision thing called Farsight, which you can place like pinpoints around the world, a la Breath of the Wild. But at the same time, you can also just pause the game and go to the map and look at stuff and place. You can place your pinpoints from there.
Okay, so that's not very Breath of the Wildy.
No. So it's I think there is a not necessarily user friendly, but slightly more mainstream, slightly more Ubisoftification of the Breath of the Wildness in this game.
Did this game feel to you like a reskinned Odyssey at all?
No. It feels a lot more arcadey than Odyssey. So you can, when you, I think, hold your regular attack down, you will like launch people up into the air, and so then you can jump up and you can juggle people around a lot. So it feels fun. Fun's not the right word. Arcadey's not. I guess Arcadia is probably like there's almost an air of like Devil May Cry-ness to it, in the way that you're kind of throwing people up and getting combos and stuff like that. So it didn't really feel like a reskinned Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yeah.
But I think more it's Ubisoft's take on Breath of the Wild, and kind of like in Jurassic Park when you take the dinosaur DNA and you replace the missing links with frog DNA. This is Breath of the Wild through the lens of Ubisoft, and wherever there's a missing link, you replace that with Assassin's Creed DNA. That's probably the best way to think about it, if that helps anybody.
No, it does, because I think what's weird about this game is I think it was the close of the Ubisoft E3 event last year, right? Wasn't that their kind of showstopper? Like, this is what's coming next from us, if I remember correctly.
That seems like so long ago.
Maybe maybe I'm making that up. It was definitely at their conference.
Last E3 was at least 3 years ago.
I know, it was a different world.
So I really don't know.
It's weird because I think everything that you say sounds interesting, and I'm wondering if, because it's not the name Zelda, if it just doesn't work. Because you don't see anyone like coming at Zelda with there's definitely remakes of the 2D Zeldas. There's a ton of those, but you don't see anyone coming after the 3D Zelda makeup, whether it's Breath of the Wild or going old school with more of like the Wind Waker Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess kind of setup. You just don't see anyone making those games. And this seemed like someone saying, all right, let's see if we can take some of that Zelda DNA and put it into a game. But I'm wondering, without the name Zelda and without the nostalgia of the Zelda soundtrack and kind of the Zelda lore, if this game kind of still doesn't, I don't know, this game seems like it's trying to do a lot of cool stuff, but I'm also hearing you say a lot of like, it's good. I feel like maybe it's missing that special sauce.
Maybe. And there is, like, playing through it, there was, like, I don't want to be negative about this game.
Sure.
Because it's not done yet. It's coming out, let's see, it'll be announced during the...
It was already leaked. You're good. You're good.
Oh,
it was leaked yesterday.
Yeah, so it's coming out December 3rd this year, which is
insane.
Is nuts.
Yeah.
Just the fact that they're throwing so many games out.
Yeah.
But... So, they still have time to work on it, and I only saw a piece of it.
And who knows how old your build was. That's
also true. But there's a kind of hollowness to this game, and it's not just... I don't know, it's kind of all over the game. In some ways, it kind of feels like that soulless remake sort of thing. But I think part of that is just because, like, the world that you're in, or at least the part of the world that I was in, didn't feel like it was alive.
Yeah.
There are enemy monsters, but there's no like wildlife that's running around. There's no people, and even to that, like, you can make a world feel like it used to be alive, and this doesn't have that either. Like, all of the buildings and everything that you find like large temples and, this giant forge that you have to relight and all this kind of stuff. And it all feels like a game world. It doesn't feel like a temple or anything that would ever exist. You don't find homes and things like that. At 2 points in my playthrough, I found a, like, random group of, I guess they kind of looked like they had, like, Spartan helmets, but Grecian warrior guys who were fighting some enemies, and it looked like that they were just kind of in a locked, like, battle until I got there, and then, some of them could die, and I killed the enemies, and then they were like, oh, yay! And then they just stood there. They didn't go on patrol. They didn't say anything. Nothing else happened. I don't know why they were there. Like, one of the groups was at the very top of this... spire's not the right word, but it's like a small cliff that, like, there's no way to get up there. I got up there because I can climb and fly. Like, I don't know how they got up there.
Yeah.
And they're just there.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, none of those things in and of themselves are, like, bad. It's just kind of when they're all together with this game, it just feels like you're on video game Grease Island. Like, it doesn't feel like a place. And so I don't know, Typhon is really mad, and throughout my demo, he was telling me that, like, he's gonna, kill me, and he's gonna reshape the world in his perfection, and I'm like, I don't know if I really have any reason to fight you, because I don't care. This world isn't anything. Like, I don't...
Right.
And the only characters that talk, your character, Fenyx, said a couple of, lines of dialogue, but for the most part, it's Prometheus talking to Zeus making some
Zeusy banter, yeah.
Yeah, and then Typhon, like, screaming. And I'm like, I don't know, it just feels very empty. And not empty of stuff to do, because you've got these tests of might and different puzzles you can do. You got the vaults of Tartarus, and it's a beautiful game to, like, run around, and you can fly in the game. You've got wings from Daedalus, and that was all really cool. But with the previous previews that I did with Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed, I got done with them, and I was like, I can't wait to talk to Joel and Alan about these. I can't wait to get these videos done.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get this preview done, because that means I'm closer to being able to play these games. I want to play these games. I got done with Watch Dogs Legion. I went and bought Watch Dogs 2. I've played maybe half of that. I already had a copy of the original Watch Dogs. I played through that for some God knows reason. And I got done with Immortals Rise of Phoenix, or Fenyx Rising, and I'm like, well, that seems kind of neat. I'm good.
I guess for everyone listening, you weren't a Breath of the Wild. I don't think have you played a Zelda game?
Yes, it was called Darksiders.
Okay, no, that was not my question. I liked Darksiders, it's fine, but that's not Zelda. It tries to be, but it's not. Once again, that's
true. No, I have played some Zelda. My friend had the Super Nintendo and N64 and GameCube when we were kids, and so I played like a little bit of Zelda as a kid, but I have not played any Zelda really. No.
So a lot of the things you're saying about being hollow, being lifeless, it's controversial because I think Breath of the Wild is a very well-loved game. That game is incredibly hollow. There is no life in that game. The life comes from the beauty of the surroundings and the way that the art design works, but the actual world itself, it's on the Switch. There's only so much stuff that they can do with kind of a limited process. So that game is very hollow. The way it gets around that is by having a beautiful world to traverse and a lot of cool stuff to do.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like part of that is the fact that in that game you're dealing with the post-apocalypse of Hyrule. It's
no one
been
knows.
100 years since Ganon destroyed the world or something.
Yes. Yes.
So in this one that could be the case. You could be in the aftermath of Typhon destroying the world, and that could give this context. But I didn't get that sense, so I'm not entirely sure.
Sure.
Anyway, continue. Sorry.
No. I was just going to say, so that what brings people to Breath of the Wild is more. I mean, I think Breath of the Wild is its own franchise. If you're talking about Zelda in general, that's a very different conversation than Breath of the Wild. Sure. There is just something about what Nintendo does. They have this touch on their games that just I don't know if anyone's ever able to replicate. And this, to me, from what I hear from you, sounds like maybe this is just missing that special, that the little bit extra that you need to make a franchise. But to your point too, this is a preview. You did not get to start at the beginning of this game. There could be a very cool opening that drags you into this world that gives a little bit more context.
Right, and by the time that I was done with the game, I was finding myself enjoying the combat and everything.
Yeah.
As I got just more comfortable with the controls and what abilities I had at my disposal, and the game does a great job of even if you're not good at the game, even if you're just kind of mashing attack over and over again, combat looks cool. When you kill an enemy, you basically baseball bat home run them out of the park. They just go flying into the air, and some of them explode into fireworks, and some of them you'll just see land on the ground really, really far away. And it does the kind of slow-mo thing when it's the last enemy of a group. And that was all, visually appealing. But yeah, it does kind of feel like it's just missing something, and I don't know what. And it could entirely be context. It could be that if you start this game from the beginning, it sinks its teeth into you and just pulls you in. But the part that I played, it did not do that.
Previews though in general for open world game. Actually, I mean previews in general are tough, but open world games have a tendency to be the hardest to preview.
Sure.
Because if you start at the beginning, then you have guys like us who played too many video games and are like, I do not want the tutorial. Can we just play the game? Right. But then you miss, because usually the tutorial is somehow tied into the overall story arc, and so you're kind of missing that context at the beginning. If they throw you at the end, then you feel like you're overpowered and you don't know how to use everything. So there's this weird balance with open world games in particular that make it very difficult to show off and demo. This one is interesting too because it felt like when they showed this off at E3 that this was going to be a start of a new franchise. So this is like a big swing for them. The December release date is kind of worrisome, and the change of names is worrisome. So there are some little warning flags that definitely have popped up. It also didn't make their first Ubisoft Forward, which is interesting. So they showed off their kind of 3 premier franchises. This is getting the second show, so that's kind of a few things that are kind of like stacking up against it. At the same time, it's got a cool art style.
Right.
I like to see something new from them, which is nice. You and I are always clamoring for them to go back to the UbiArt engine and build those games again, which is just dead.
It's not going to happen.
So maybe this is their attempt to build Child of Light 2? I don't know.
So I guess the thing that I'm worried about, and I don't have any basis for this really. This is just a Jonathan worry. My worry is that this is their second attempt at like a mass like child audience. Basically what they did with Starlink with the spaceships, their kind of foray into the Toys to Life thing.
Toys to
I've
Life.
Got Disney. What was the Spyro one?
Oh God, I have no. Skylanders.
Skylanders. There you go. It was their foray into that. And so, I mean, I'm glad I'm not there. I'm glad this isn't actually Starlink 2. But I guess in saying that, it's not going for the child audience, because that's fine. That's what e-games are for. But it's, I don't know, it feels like that, not cash grab, but just that, like, maybe disingenuous attempt at that audience.
Maybe. I think you could almost copy and paste what you said for this game into the actual game of Starlink. It was very hollow,
absolutely.
very open.
Yes, and that, I guess that's why.
Yeah.
Because I have Starlink, mostly because I have the spaceships. I think I played that game for like an hour, and I was like, no, these spaceships are cool, though. They're going to go on my shelf.
They are. Yeah, those were very cool. They were. That was one of the better, Toys to Life thing.
Anyway, we're getting off topic. It's probably my worries originally from that game kind of seeping into this, that I guess I'm getting a similar feeling, I guess, of that hollowness. That of like, hey, this is a pretty world, and here's stuff to do. So you're going to do it because it's pretty, and you have the checklist of stuff. And that's, I don't know, that's not enough. Yeah, that's Gods and Monsters, Immortals, Fenyx Rising. And, you know, I don't know. It could be amazing. It still could entirely be amazing. I didn't get the greatest vibe coming out of it. But we'll see come December 3rd of 2020.
4 games from Ubisoft in like 5 months. You got Watch Dogs in October. You got November Assassin's Creed. You got December this game. And then you have what I think is February is Far Cry?
February for Far Cry, yep.
Wow. Yeah, it's a lot of Ubisoft.
All right, well, Joel, I think I've thought through this game. Hopefully people understood my thoughts. But now it is time to write about this game, which will be accompanied with some footage and this podcast. Thank you so much for sitting down with me and chatting about Immortals, Fenyx Rising.
Spelled with an F.
And you can head on over to darkstation.com to see my written preview, and then to our YouTube page to see the gameplay along with this conversation. So if you're hearing this conversation, you're probably already there, or you may be on the podcast. I don't know. There's so many options. The internet is just crazy. But go ahead and check out darkstation.com for more video game reviews, previews, and features. You can subscribe to this show on iTunes and find us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at darkstation_com. You can email us at podcast@darkstation.com. For Joel Zerler, I'm Jonathan Miley. Thank you all once again. And until next time, be safe out there, be good to one another, and have a good one.
See ya.